We are a free money platform. So you have free speech platforms. We're a free money platform where you're free to make money. That's a better way to donate.
You're listening to The Brendon Marotta Show.
In this episode, I talked to Jesse Herman, a social media manager who has gotten over 20 billion views for his clients. Jesse is now entering the crypto space with Let's Go.finance, a platform which aims to give users a better way to contribute to the causes and creators that they care about by allowing them to stake crypto and give a portion of the earnings to a creator or cause that they want to support. And if you don't know what that means, don't worry, we will explain it in this episode. Plus, in the show notes are instructions on how you can join the platform and support creators like me. Yes, I am on the platform, and I would encourage you to sign up and support my work. We also talk about what polarizing characteristics make for a successful creator, how to handle toxic trolls and why some of the worst come from big pharma, and why instead of creating a free speech platform, Jesse is focused on creating a free money platform. Now, here is Jesse. So, when people meet you and they ask what it is that you do, how is it that you usually answer that question for the majority of my audience who might not be familiar with you or what it is that you do?
I tell them I'm a publisher.
Okay. Is that a real answer, or is that the I kind of want people not to ask too many questions answer?
That's my passion, is publishing. But there's a lot wrapped into that. You could call me a marketer, web developer, social media guru, whatever you want to. But my core is publishing, writing, that type of thing.
And what is it you do in that space? Is it primarily books, or is it other stuff?
No, it's other stuff. So what I've always gravitated towards is writing, but then managing other people that create. So it's like writing and then video. I went to UCF, but for film school. So I've just always gone into that space, and I like to manage content creators and come up with ideas and push them in certain directions. That's where I always gravitate towards.
That's a space that I think a lot of people know exists, but they don't know much about. So usually when people think of content creators, they think of the person who's the front of it, the person who's on the YouTube video or the podcast or has a social media personality. So what does the behind the scenes of that look like for someone like you? What is the role that you play?
Well, it depends. It depends on the project. Some of the projects I've been most successful with, it's a lot of just research, coming up with ideas, looking at blogs that you like, bookmarking massive amounts of things, being on Twitter, picking up ideas on that, whether it's quotes, news stories, just kind of creative content, designs, these types of things. And then, you have like a Trello board or however you manage the ideas, and you'll create cards, and then the creators can go in and see those ideas, and then you kind of flesh those ideas out with them as needed. Preferably you've trained people so they just kind of see the idea, and then they can create cool content around that idea. That's the idea. Typically that you don't have to hold their hand too much. So when you get into that, you can really mass scale content, and that is my passion. When I grew up, I always thought I wanted to write for a newspaper, right? That was what I wanted to do. I see old movies where they speak a certain style, and they're pumping out news stories and taking down the bad guys, stuff like that. I always thought that was what I wanted to do. But then I realized, no, I wanted to manage a newsroom is what I wanted to do. And that's essentially what I've done for the past probably 15 years. So in some form. It started, I launched a sports blog right when I finished college. And that was just like a hobby. That wasn't my first job. My first job was taking pictures of products and uploading them online and doing Photoshop elements with them to make sure they look good and they can sell. That was back satellite radio. I worked for a satellite radio company back when that was big. Before the iPod really took off, right? It was right around then. And then But I started the sports blog, and before I knew it, we had like 15 writers. And I'm just like managing that, paying them next to nothing, making next to nothing. And then we got into Google News, we had some success there. And so that, I just basically did that for free out of like passion, and developed some great contacts. And I just knew then that I had this skill set that like none of the writers that were writing for me had. Like I could just manage this stuff. It just came so naturally to me. So I do other things, but if I'm kind of in that space, I feel like I'm top tier.
That is wild that you've been doing this for 15 years, because I'm going to date my age a little bit. 15 years ago, I was taking the driver's test in high school, and I remember the person who's an older boomer who was giving me the test, he asked me, what's a podcast? Because I use that term. So you've been doing this longer than most people know it existed, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, influencer marketing, I got into that before I think influencer marketing was a thing, Now you could argue I haven't really scaled that as well as like some companies. Like there's some companies that will manage hundreds of influencers or whatever, and I've never been that guy. And the platform we're developing, I think, will enable me to kind of have that service. But I'm not going to dive into that just yet. Essentially, we've really focused on just a couple or a few clients, and really expanded what we were able to do for them. And that's, I had the blog 15 years ago that had success. And then I did some other things similar to that along the way, in between, like kind of more of as hobbies where I worked jobs. But all my jobs, I ended up doing like sort of the publishing thing too, in terms of SEO and scaling that and how we did that. It's just, but anyways, at some point I said to myself, I'm far more interested in other people that have these huge brands and can make a big difference than I am my own brand. It was a realization I had that if I just gave up on the idea of having my own thing, and I worked on other people's things, like it could be far more fun. And it turned out to be true. I had just kind of jump ahead a little bit. Like 7 years ago, I really got into Facebook. One of my friends had some success. How it started was I lived in Brazil, and I noticed that the egg yolks in Brazil were orange. They had orange egg yolks, and I was like, well, why are they orange? Because in America it was always yellow, and it always was interesting to me. I looked it up, and I saw it's like a lot of times it's a healthier egg because the chickens are on a better diet and they're eating greens and stuff like that. And in America, they're just fed the grains and it's unhealthy. So it was like every time I made eggs, I'd be like to my wife, look, this one's orange. It's so cool. And I remember she got annoyed. She was like, shut up about these eggs. Every day you tell me it's an orange yolk. I get it, right? So finally, I was providing free hosting for like a Facebook friend, right? Just like I would do that for people sometimes, just help them out. And then he was telling me how much success he was having on Facebook, and he ended up being an admin on a big page. At the time, seemed like a big page. So on my blog, I wrote an article and took some pictures and stuff like that about the orange yolks of the eggs. And I don't know how to stop these notifications. Let me just tell my buddy not to do this. But I did that, and in the article, I remember it published, and I had like 500 actives, then like 5,000 actives on this article. It just like went crazy viral, and I was like, whoa, let me see how I can scale this. So then I ended up becoming an admin on probably like 15 different Facebook pages. I saw that everybody was just stealing content from each other. Nobody was producing good content. And I'm one of those guys, I'm like a 6 out of 10 skill set on like everything, right? And I've just taught myself, I'm a jack of all trades. So I'm like pumping out memes for these guys and doing all this original content. And then they would like share my blog posts. right? That's how that was kind of working. And I was doing quite well, right? I was making some good money, and I was like, this is a lot of fun. And then from there, like some of the bigger influencers were like just stealing my content, right? And so when they would steal my content, I would reach out to them. I'd be like, hey, you're stealing my content. That's fine. Let's stop doing that and let's just work together. So that's like how it went on Facebook. And eventually I picked up a client, and we grew his Facebook to 12.5 million. He was the biggest health page on Facebook. Probably still is, but who knows? I don't go on Facebook anymore. And what we really did was we got into video. And that was a space where I saw, okay, everyone's doing the memes. A couple people were doing the videos. But yeah, so we got into the videos, and we ended up getting about 20 billion video views for clients from then till now.
Is that an estimate, or is that an actual number?
Well, I can prove that we got about 12 billion.
Wow.
The thing is, like, some of my clients got banned and things like that, and I can prove it through screenshots. And the only reason I have those screenshots is because I put some like PDFs together to show other people, right? Like, or else I wouldn't even have that. But yeah, I can prove probably 8 to 12 billion. I don't know. I haven't done that for a while, but it was legit like 20 billion. Now, you could argue that the Facebook numbers and Instagram numbers are inflated. Some of those views are like no longer than 10 seconds, I concede. But the fact is, like, literally, I think everybody on Facebook has seen my videos at one point. That's inarguable. I also had a political client where we had the most activity for a year of anybody, and that was in the 2016 election cycle. Actually, so I saw some others that were doing it on the other side of the political spectrum, and I saw a void that could be filled, and started reaching out to people. And then so for the health and the politics, we had the top pages for like a couple of years, and we all had we were getting 1 million clicks per day to each of their blogs. So we were getting about 2 million, anywhere from like 1.5 to 2 million clicks per day for months for both of these blogs. So that was like insane. I mean, I thought at the time, like, I was unstoppable. I was the greatest thing ever. And then, the bannings came and the manipulation by Facebook, and then, you're like, oh, I have to start all over. This really, I'm not as great as I thought I was. And I also thought at the time that like mainstream would kind of come knocking, right? Some mainstream elements, like, because I just thought, well, everyone's going to see how we just dominated, and somebody's going to pluck me out somewhere, and like, that never happened, which I always thought was odd. So you just have to find a new way, and it's choose yourself. It's the choose yourself economy. It's the choose yourself. So that's what I just have continued to do, is just find new ways to, despite the censorship, to try to make it. Yeah.
That's a very impressive track record, because you say, well, because I've heard the thing about like Facebook inflating numbers, but even if that's inflated, that's huge. So I'm curious, without disclosing anything that would breach the confidentiality of your previous clients, is there a video that you worked on that my audience might have seen, that they might be familiar with?
Honestly, so the health guy, we did a lot of the feel-good videos. It wasn't just about health. Like, that was the thing, is we were doing like positivity. Like, the one video I did was a cat video that got 750 million views.
Wow.
And that was just on Facebook. And I was at this guy's conference. The internet was terrible. I had to have somebody like give me the Marriott internet, because the generic internet that everybody gets was just terrible, and I couldn't download these GIFs. And I would like download GIFs, and then I put them together to create a longer video, and then I'd add some fun music to it, and it was a cat video. Now, this sounds so stupid, but back then, like, nobody was really doing this much, like, certainly with the GIFs. And the GIFs are done. It's all in Giphy, right? You get these awesome cat things. So I would just put videos together like that. And I was really, at the beginning, a lot of the video stuff was just me. You know, like I said, I'm a 6 out of 10, right? And I can I can work fast. When it comes to video editing and Photoshop, I'm like, people watch me, they're like, what the heck, you know? I'm not great aesthetically, but I can get the job done. And so it was a cat video that got 750 million views. So as far as like the videos themselves, yeah, everyone's seen my videos. But the thing is too, like, you know, that 20 billion number, I don't really even factor in like everybody that stole our content. Like all of our content was stolen. Like, and then posted all over these other blogs and stuff. So
it could be greater when you factor in the reposting.
It's like infinite. It's an infinite amount of video views that we had. And people that know the clients that I had and that time and place, like, you know, everybody knows our content. So, but yeah, it started, the first crazy viral video was that cat video. And then I was like, okay, we have to scale this now. Like, and what I did to scale was I had a team in the Philippines. We started with one girl, and the great thing about the feel-good content, right, is like they don't need to know, like the political content, I had to hire Americans that understood the political elements. You couldn't scale that in the same way. But the feel-good content where it's like, you know, this person built a pod in their backyard for their grandma and now they lived happily ever after, like whatever. Like, so this guy's walking people's dogs. You know, like all of these types of stories, you could scale that. I mean, they could be, you know, Filipino and it doesn't matter. They don't need to understand all these nuances. So it started with her, and she went to film school, and then she just started bringing in her friends. We would produce we would do 5 to 10 videos a day, upwards to 10 videos a day, and then we would only keep 3 to 4 on the page. So we'd only keep the most viral videos, and this gamed the algorithm because this made it look like our content was super popular. Like everyone would be like, how are you just posting this super viral content? We didn't. We would post like 6 that we threw away.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was the algorithm that really fed into the algorithm. So we really figured out the Facebook algorithm, especially with the videos, and that worked for a couple years really, really well. And yeah, and a lot of Facebook admins would play this game of like share for share and all this stuff. We didn't do any of that. I never did any of that with any of my clients, or my 2 main clients especially. We just focused on what we needed to focus on. It was all in that, like, it was just all content would just get shared naturally. And the great thing about like actual influencers that are interesting people is they have it built in that people want to share their stuff. They think it's important. This person's important. They probably met them when, you know, at an event. So there is that inherent advantage that I had in my team over like some random brand that nobody cares about. So I love that part of it as well.
So having done this a long time and had a lot of success, what's your advice to creators who are trying to produce the same thing? So if someone comes to you, they say, I want to be a client, I want your advice, you know, what should I do? Where is it you start with that process?
Usually it's like, what content are you producing right now? And then how can we scale it? That's it. So I see all sorts of great content creators that I'm like, why aren't you like chopping up your videos and then labeling it in SEO format for YouTube, which is essentially, it's just a search platform, and then you can get indexed and get views forever. Like that's the one thing that's just so obvious that people don't do a lot of the time, right? You know, for the more interesting content, you know, it's a little more complicated and complex, and you have to like find video editors. And the thing about hiring people is it's a process that never stops. It's never like, oh, I have my team. It's not like that. So
yeah, I'm dealing with a little of that right now. I'm looking to hire more people for different roles. So I'd be curious too if you had advice there in terms of, like, you mentioned a team in the Philippines for one type of content, but then you had to get a particular type of politically aware American editor for other content. So what's the process by which you find people who can do this? And then of course, a lot of social media creators are on a budget, and at the same time you want the work to be good. So how is it that you navigate all of those factors too?
Yeah, I've spent probably over $1 million. I don't know how much. Around $1 million in Upwork.com.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I've used that site quite extensively. In addition to that, you can find people in the Philippines, let's say. I have a lot of success with Filipinos because Filipinos understand American culture. It was an occupied territory by America for a long time. So culturally, there's a lot of overlap there. And, I have some people I have very good relationships with, right, that I've worked with for years in the Philippines. And so it's not like I always have to go to Upwork to find talent. Like, they'll have friends and then people come along. So just over time, you can develop those relationships. But the amount of people I've gone through to get to anywhere to that point is absurd. So like, people will say, hey, can I have help with the site? Let's say I'm just kind of helping somebody out. I'll be like, yeah, $10 an hour, or like whatever. Like, sometimes I just help people out, and they'll be like, this person's amazing. How do you find these people? I'm like, it took me like 12 people to get to that one person. It just never stops.
So you're sort of hiring and firing as you go. You'll give someone some work, and if they do a good job, you keep hiring them, and if they don't, you move on.
Yeah, preferably, I want to stop that process as much as possible, but it's kind of like shaving. If you stop for too long, you look like a bum. So it's like, I don't know, that there's a saying, a football coach in college would say that. If I stop recruiting, like, I'm not going to get the good players. I'll look like a bum. It's like shaving. I forget whose analogy that was, but it's the same thing with hiring and firing, I guess. I don't really typically like to fire. It's more like just leave people alone. Stop, pause their contract, I guess, is firing. But it's really just, a lot of people just fall off the map. Like, what happened to this person, And yeah, that's as far as advice, it's just a constant process that I don't think a lot of people are built for it. It's just, I've always been into team sports and working with people. I like that element. I like to deal with people. A lot of people, like, they're not into that as much. Especially creators, they just like to lock themselves in their dungeon and create, and they can't expand their efforts. But I'm sort of in between, where I like to create, but then I really just like to scale, to be honest. It's fun for me to build these teams. It's what I'm into.
And when someone is trying to scale, what's your way of determining where to do that? So I know, for example, you mentioned Facebook being huge at one point in time, but now, like, Facebook is not the platform it once was. And so I'm trying to figure out that for myself now, is what's the platform that matters, or the place to pay attention, and how is it you determine where that is?
Okay, I have a thread. So I have, I just put this up. So YouTube, Odyssey, Getter.com, Gab.com, Twitter, Minds.com. I have those, right, marked to work on. Parler used to be more of a thing. That's like dead now. So it depends on your clients. There's so many social media. There's so much social. TikTok is huge, but TikTok, for the space I'm kind of focusing on now, is not as viable of an option. And then Instagram, obviously, is also huge. And Facebook's still something that you can, especially for running ads. You can have Facebook ads that still deliver quite well. And then, obviously, like the Google ads and all that good stuff as well. So, you just have to figure out, like, what who you're trying to market towards. And then once you find something that works, and you just over and over and over, that's what it is. But you do want to expand as much as possible, because you don't. And then an email list. A lot of people just ignore the email list, but that still makes a lot of money. Texting lists can produce as well, but people get quite annoyed, and it's kind of a spammy space. But all those things I've had some success with. I've made, with one of my old clients, I remember the first time we sent a text, we made like, a few grand that night. I was like, this is something we never did before, and I just made like $5,000. That was awesome. But then you keep doing it, and you're like, you know, it's not something we want to do all the time. So, but all those social media sites have potential. You can make a lot of money on all of them. I'm not an expert in all of them, nor will I ever be. But what you can find is people that are experts, possibly, and partner with them. I'm talking to a group now that manages like 200 people on TikTok, and then they all have pretty big Instagram pages as well. And I'm bringing them into the project we're working on. So I don't need to be a TikTok expert. I don't want to be. It's like China crap. I told my daughter she can't go on it. So I don't really. I did upload some videos and just tested, how it works. I want to figure it out. But me personally, it's thunderstorming outside right now. I'm in Florida, so hopefully we're good. We'll leave this on. If lightning strikes.
It's audible, but it's at the level of light ambience. So
yeah, no, if it gets too close, we might have to shut this down. But we should be fine. I heard thunder rumbling, but anyways, yeah, I'm not an expert in these at all. Like I don't know. I'm an expert at producing content at scale and hiring people and just working with teams. That's my expertise. The social media part is like, let me hire somebody that's an expert, right? It's just changing so fast. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for you.
Well, it sounds like the answer is changing continuously each moment. I was actually surprised how many alternative, or I guess they're called, they're all social media, but platforms that are referred to as alternative you had on the list. Is that mainly due to the people you work with who are a little bit more political, or you think those platforms are for someone who's not political?
I decided to get her to the list because I looked at it and I was like, wait, there's a bunch of activity here. And then I looked up, because I'm doing a crypto project I'm about to launch. I searched the hashtag Bitcoin, and like there's hardly any activity, but whenever somebody uses the hashtag Bitcoin, they get tons of activity. And I was like, well, here's an obvious opportunity. So I just added it to the list like yesterday or a couple days ago. Minds.com, their platform is just really good. It's just a really good platform. Their tech is awesome. It's been like they've been around for 5 years. It's been super slow growth. They just got a $10 million investment.
Wow.
So and they have a really cool, let me clean my glasses. They have a really cool, they have a token, and there's ways to earn tokens by participating on Minds.com. And there's Web3 applications built in now too, and they're doing things that other people just aren't doing. And so at the very least, it's for me, it's cool to just see what they're doing. What can we take away from that? And so I've gotten into Minds.com recently. Again, I was on them a couple years ago, and they've improved greatly. Like, their tech is the best tech. There's no social media platform where I really enjoy it's a smooth display, it looks good, the videos play, then they have these Web3 applications that they're implementing. So if I was running Getter or Gab, I would be looking at Minds.com and thinking, okay, well, how can we do some of what they're doing? And yeah.
I've heard really good things about the design of Minds, and also that nobody's there, despite that incredible design.
The funny part is it's all open source, so you could be there in a week if you had the right team to steal it. Yeah, they're completely open source. That's the other thing about them, is they're very transparent. They sort of operate this. The thing about Minds.com as an alternative media platform is the founder, Bill Ottoman, I think is his name. He's not an activist. So a lot of these alternative media platform guys, they're activists.
Right.
Like Torba of Gab, he's an activist, and that's great. Like, I'm not knocking that at all. That's just, he's an activist, right? You had Parler, and Dan Bongino was one of those founders. He's an activist. I mean, he's totally an activist. You have Getter, and they're very political people behind it, and that brings this massive audience with it. All right, it excludes people as well, Mine's has always just been more kind of like libertarian. They're not jumping on they didn't jump on the Trump train and leverage all that. It's just been kind of a slow growth. So there's different strategies there to try to build your audience, but I like the idea of not being an activist. You know, like, I don't consider myself an activist. I work for people that are definitely activisty, you know, that are involved politically, but myself, I don't like to put myself out there and kind of stand on a soapbox and yell at people. And it's just a target that you put on your back. I don't know. It's fine if that's what people, I like what Minds has done. And they haven't taken some shortcuts for an audience that I think they could have taken. I guess I'll just say that.
Yeah, the impression I get from their social media on other sites is that they think everybody should be able to have a voice on the internet, which is kind of what every social media company said at the beginning, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I don't know what they stand for other than kind of freedom on the internet. They really keep it simple. I don't know those guys. I mean, I'm Facebook friends with him. I don't doubt he's ever been on Facebook. I don't think he's been there for 5 years. But I don't know those guys. I don't know exactly what they stand for. And I think that's kind of the point. I don't think that's internet freedom. I mean, that's pretty much what they stand for. Gab has taken a different turn. Like they are calling people out, right? They're calling people out that are on their platform.
Yeah.
I'm always like, dang, man, like, there's a congressperson on your platform and you're calling them out. Like, okay, that's an approach to take. Getter, I don't know what they do exactly, but it's crazy. I just looked at their stats yesterday and I was like, they're huge. Like, Getter is huge. Like, they've got tons of activity. It's new, so it's gonna be messy. They have to figure out that whole system, but they're doing a great job. Now, the reason I'm researching these people is because we're launching an application. If you just want me to segue real quick.
Go for it.
Yeah, we're launching Let's Go.finance, and this application can be used by any of these social media platforms. It can be used by any donation platform. It's got enterprise level solutions for all of them. And essentially what we are is a donation platform that takes a concept that's never been done before, where you can stake a token and you get yield by staking tokens. That's what like DeFi staking, that's all been done before. What we've done is we've taken that concept and we've enabled you to stake on a person or an organization and split the yield. And if you could stake on a town, a township, a charity, a person, an organization, anything, and you can actually split the APY. You split the yield. You split the interest.
So for my audience members who are less familiar with crypto, what does it mean to stake a token and split the yield?
Well, if you think about like a CD at a bank, like you can put money in a CD and you get like 1 to 3% back. Well, that's what this is. I'm not gonna say that's what this is. This is a similar concept to that. So you can take your tokens and you can stake, and then you'll get, it depends on the token. Now there's some tokens, some are insane yields, but like it depends on the risk you're willing to take. Some tokens you could get like 100% APY, but the token could drop 75% in overnight. So you got to measure that risk. But you can also stake USDC, which is tied to the dollar. It's very little risk, unless they like rug pull and steal your money, which that's a whole different topic. But like, that's why you have to be careful who you deal with. But like, you can stake USDC that's tied to that dollar and get 10%, right? And then that's awesome because then you're getting 10% yield on that. What we've done is we created a system where you can stake the USDC, but you're kind of staking it on an entity that you want to support. Maybe it's a charity, and then you split the yield, and it's almost like a voluntary tax system then. It's like, okay, I'll stake $1,000, 10% annually. Let's say that's $100 or 100 USDC, and then I'm going to give away 20% of that, or $20. Now, when you're done staking, you take out the $1,000. So you're donating, but you're actually never losing money, which I really like that concept as well.
I love this idea, but I want to make sure that my understanding of staking and all of that is correct. So when you put your money in a bank, they make money by loaning your money at interest. It sounds like that staking is the crypto version where you directly loan your money to someone else and collect all of the interest the same way a bank would. Is that an accurate understanding?
Yeah, I'm not actually loaning the person. What we did, our platform is built on like platforms that have billions of dollars worth of crypto staked on them. So we just built layers on top of that. So when you stake on a person, the smart contract executes it. So we're automatically staking on these large entities that are as safe as you're going to find in the crypto space. That's where the money sits. It's not sitting with us. Now, that return yield will come back to us, and then we split it, and that's how the payout system works.
This strikes me as a really sustainable way of donating to causes or organizations that you support, because if you were to just stake a large amount of money, then they have a guaranteed income every year from that amount.
It's recurring donations without credit card, without email. You don't need to provide an email. You don't need to provide a credit card. We're fully decentralized smart contract system.
The not needing to provide an email or credit card was also really interesting because it means that people can donate to people and organizations that maybe they don't want their full legal name attached to. Is that part of it as well?
It's definitely a part of it. I don't like to talk about the privacy aspect too much. We are fully decentralized. The privacy there's some gray area there. A lot of people mistaken and they think, oh, Bitcoin's fully private. No, actually, it's all in a ledger.
Yeah, it's more public than your bank account.
Yeah, exactly. So it is more private, and it's super cool that you, like, in a sense, it's more private. You don't have to provide your phone number. You don't have to provide your name. Now, if the FBI, I don't really like to talk about this, but whatever. If the FBI came calling because something very shady is being funded, right, they can possibly track where these accounts came from, what Coinbase account is it, whatever. I'm not, just so people understand, like, it's kind of, if there is shady behavior, they can almost track it easier in a sense, right?
Yes.
So
obey the law while you're on the internet or using
obey the law. I mean, this is simple stuff. So these are things that the DeFi industry is going to have to deal with, and you're going to have people that want to take out DeFi and say, oh, it's, look what they did. Like, money was raised for this nefarious purpose, but in reality, that's not what's going on. It's just another way. It's just a better way to donate. It's as simple as that. It's decentralized, 100%. But what it is more than anything for me is a better way to donate. I've donated through Patreon. I've donated through GoFundMe. All these different ways to donate. They're fine. They're great. They're going to exist. We're not trying to replace them, but we can complement all of them. I mean, all these donation sites that exist, it's like, well, why don't you add our system? Because we're like a Shopify store. So in Shopify, you can have a store and you have your own URL. You can have your own template. Well, that's what you can do with us. So on our launch, you're just going to be on Let's Go.finance. But on our updates that are going to come soon after, you can have your own URL, you can have your own template, your own branding, and you're just powered by Let's Go.finance in our smart contract system. Because we're doing something that's never been done before, and we're going to make it super easy. Everybody can be their own farm, be their own bank, be their own DeFi platform, be their own NFT platform, raising money for all these good causes. I always think, like, what if like townships and towns and cities start getting involved in this, right? Like, it could scale unbelievably well. I think as far as raising money for politics, there's some, you have to deal with the FEC and all these guidelines and stuff, and there's like laws that just aren't in the books right now. So those people will have to be careful potentially with this type of system. Split interest, because you have to track like who's donated. There's only certain amounts you can donate unless it's to a super PAC. At any rate, like, it goes on and on, all the people that can benefit from this system. And the interest rates can be way better if you're willing to take a little bit of a risk and stake. Like the Cake token is the one from PancakeSwap. Like, it's a top 50 coin, and you're getting like 100% APY. On top of that, we can distribute the ego token. We have an ego system, simple egonomics, right? And our ego token, EGO, is our system of tokens where on top of that we can distribute the ego token. So it's like a reward. If you're donating, you get rewarded with the ego token, and that's our ego system, which I love that name for celebrities and stuff like that. It's all we're all a bunch of ego.
So if you donate to good causes, it's good for your ego.
It's good for your ego, and you pump your you become an egomaniac. So we're putting all these memes together. I really can't wait to launch the project, and we have some ridiculous concepts going on that end.
I really love the concept. So if I have an organization and I want to start receiving donations this way, how do I do that? Is there a place where I sign up?
Yeah, so you need a wallet, and I suggest you get a MetaMask wallet. METAMASK. You can set up a MetaMask wallet in 5 minutes. You'll be given 12 words. You write down those 12 words. You can put them online. You can put them on like your email or wherever you store your passwords, but that's always a little dangerous, right? So the safest...
You want to store in a place where no one else will see it.
Yes. You write down the 12 words, and then you download a plugin for your browser. I suggest the Brave browser because it's the most privacy. But a lot of people use Chrome or whatever browser, Mozilla, Firefox, whatever. It works with all those, and you can use it on your phone as well. But again, phone, I always worry about the phone, so I suggest a browser. You go on your browser, you add the plugin, and then you just put in the 12 words, and then it'll also give you a password that's just for that specific browser. So whatever your password is. So if somebody goes on that browser, all you have to do is put in your quick password. You don't have to do 12 words. Now in another browser, you'd have to have another password. So it's not like that, but the 12 words applies everywhere.
Right.
The 12 words give you access to your money you can send and receive. Anyways, if you're an influencer, an organization, an artist, a band, whatever it might be, you'll have your MetaMask wallet. Once you go on, you're automatically, like if you're logged into your MetaMask wallet, you're logged into our site. And then you can just set up your profile so you'll have a name. We're going to have a commenting system like all donation platforms have, and your name will be attached to that. It could be anonymous or it could be your name. I mean, whatever you want it to be. And it's the only issue is getting people to set up a MetaMask wallet, which you can do in 5 minutes, but it's one of those things where some people have different skill sets and aren't tech inclined.
Right.
And we just that's the only hump to get over, is a MetaMask wallet. And once people figure out that this is the future, Web3 is the future of the internet, it's going to happen. It's going to happen, but it's just right now it's kind of like it's the early days of the internet, really, and as far as Web3 goes, it's the early days. So it's just getting going. And like I said, we're talking to some of these social media platforms, but they all should work with us. I mean, like the first one that says yes is the correct one, because the thing is, these new social media platforms launch, and how do they monetize? They don't. It takes them a while. Some do, like Gab does, right? Gab monetizes in their own way. They're banned from banks and everything else, but Getter has no way to monetize right now. Minds.com does, but they're not using our model. People are going to steal our model. There's no doubt. That's why we want to make a big splash right away. But it's we can incorporate with anybody, and we can easily scale up anybody. We can do, the custom URL is going to be built in just like a Shopify store. You can do your own custom template with branding. We're talking to existing donation sites, which would be great because they can easily onboard their people. We're talking to one next week, and they're Christian based. Churches, I mean, just imagine if they all started using this, because there's a lot of people that 10% of their check every week goes to their church. Well, they could still do that, but in addition, they can stake their money, they can split interest, and put like 10%, 20% of the interest going to their church. The amount of money that can be raised is absurd. Now, to complement all of that, and that is like the core concept of this platform. Like, that's where this whole idea originated. I had the idea in October. I put it off until like February, and then I was like, I don't have a choice. I have to do this. I really didn't want to. It was one of those things where I'm like, it's not fun to launch. It's not fun to launch a new project. It's a lot of stress.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. And then I have to contact all these people that just, because we're crypto, they immediately think we're a scam coin. Like, there's so many scam coins and everything else. Like, we have a token, but we are a platform. We're platform based. You never actually have to buy our tokens. You use our platform. And so anyways, like, and then I've been contacting influencers for years now to see if we collab, but it's just this whole process of, I have to reach out to these people, they ignore me, so that's what I've been doing, just being ignored by people for months now. And eventually, you find the right inroads and existing contacts that you have. Some of my old clients are going to participate, obviously that helps, but like, we need enterprise. We're an enterprise solution. Think of a private company, just their employees. This is the final thing, is like, you can have your own token in our network. So we can create your token for you. That is manual. We don't have that built into our system. But like, let's just say, name that company Disney, right? These are called social tokens. So like, if you wanted to watch a Disney movie, it would take like 50 Disney tokens, right? To like watch this movie or to rent this movie, whatever it might be. A company could just tell their employees, like, stake on here, you can earn our company tokens, which you can trade for this. It could go on and on and on. So we can create company tokens or influencer tokens, and we can plug that through our entire network. Their staking card can appear on our whole network, or it could appear just on a few accounts. Influencers and whatnot can select, okay, I want these staking cards to appear with these tokens, these staking cards to not appear on my page where people donate. So you can decide like who you want to promote, who you want to make money with, who you think has the coins that you want to support, the projects you want to support. Literally, I could talk for days about the potential with this, but that's where we're going with it, and it's all built in.
So I want to make sure I understand this. If I was to sign up with your platform, you could help me create a new token. We'll just call it Brendon Bucks for now, and like, if someone stakes their money and sends real other cryptocurrencies to me, Ethereum, Bitcoin, USD token, then in return, I could give them my individual creator token and offer to trade a certain amount of those in for something I'm creating. If you get a certain amount, I'll send you a free video, a free piece of content.
We don't plan on doing this, at least at the beginning.
Okay. This is a long-term feature.
It's not a long-term feature. We can easily do it, but we got to make sure you're able to bring some people, right?
Got it. So you're not going to set this up for my 20 fans, but you might set it up for my 200,000 fans.
If you have 200 people staking on your DeFi staking page, we would be like, totally. If you have 2, then no, we're not going to care about you. Sorry.
Got it.
But eventually it'd be cool if you could just create your own. But the thing is, like, we have to make sure we don't want a bunch of scam coins. We want like legit companies, legit projects, legit influencers. Like, we don't want to just flood the internet with garbage. Right. There's enough of that. So if you get a coin in our project, that means you're a legit company or a legit person that has a huge following, and it's like real utility to your token. You can have a lot of utility outside of our project. Right? It's your token. You can have a lot of utility, but what you'll do is your token can be included in these staking cards. So you would essentially give us a certain amount of them that goes into the staking pool. So when people stake, then it's an algorithm, depending how much is staked, only so much is going to be released a week. So the people that get in early get tons of tokens. As more and more tokens are staked on there, less tokens will be distributed, but the cost of the token could be a lot higher. So it's a great way to initially like distribute your tokens and get like that whole thing going. And then there's all sorts of utility you can have away from our platform. It's just our platform can help you launch your token. So that's kind of like the last enterprise level that we have that's not automatically built into what we do. but we easily can, like, because we've already set up the system. We could do it quickly. We just have to go over the tokenomics, make sure you understand how it's going to work, make sure the person understands how to securely manage their tokens and the wallets that are needed, or if they wanted us to do it, then, legal things would have to be set up. But at any rate, we do have those enterprise level solutions on top of everything else. And, this stuff's, it's happening. I mean, we did not intend to do that when we set this up, but I was like, wait a second, everybody already has their own staking pools and their own NFT feed with their own custom URL and their own template design. Well, I guess they could just have their own token then. And we're like, yeah, that would actually be really easy. It fits into what we've already created. So it was really a natural process. The core of what we do is just creating it so people could have their own, you could stake on somebody, an individual, an organization. That's the core of what we are. But then when you do that, you're like, oh, this just opens it up to all these possibilities. So
that is super interesting, and it sounds incredibly powerful.
Now the NFT side is interesting because I can scale content like a madman. That's what I do. It's my passion. So you have NFTs, right? Non-fungible tokens. They can be a quick looping video or a meme. I mean, that's what I do. Like I have video teams, I have graphics teams, right? So we can work with these influencers and scale it. And now I'm not working, I don't even know how, honestly, I don't know how to scale, because to the level of influencers we have coming on. We have agreements with, we should have hundreds, but potentially a lot more than that, depending on who we're making deals with, probably by the time you publish this, of people on our platform. And then it's like, how do we scale memes and videos up to that level? We probably won't. We'll have to pick and choose our partners, right? But we could help people potentially hire teams. This is where you're asking me these questions and how to scale. Maybe we have a educational program that we develop on the side that just helps people, because you think about the amount of content that's been produced. Think of all the content that people post on Instagram. They get nothing out of it. So our feed is going to be like an Instagram feed with commenting, but it's all for sale. That's the difference. Now, why would you buy it? It's not going to be worth anything, right? Well, maybe, probably, maybe not. Maybe it'll be worth a lot, but it's just a way to donate. For us, you could donate to somebody somewhere else and you get an email saying thank you. You can donate through us and you get you get either the staking or money back, or you get an NFT, which could or could not have value. Now, I'm not a tax person, but let's say you bought an NFT, which is a token, and let's say it goes to zero. Well, that's a loss. That would probably help you in terms of taxes, right? Don't take my word for that. Talk to your, But I'm just saying,
there's no legal advice in this podcast of any kind, or financial.
No financial advice at all. I'm just saying, there's so many, I don't know, you can use this to your advantage in so many different ways. The final thing I didn't mention with the staking is we have a staking wall. You have the paywall and all these different, platforms.
Oh, so you can have a Patreon or supporter-only feed for people who are staking. That's interesting.
Yeah, so that was the other element. That's not going to be available on launch, but the second iteration. That's not that complicated either. It's just a simple blog, really. And we want to keep it very simple. We don't want to get too crazy. It just isn't necessary, at least at first. I don't want to deal with streaming. There's all sorts of things you have to worry about with streaming video and stuff like that with paywall access. Think of the industries that utilize that more than any others are industries that I don't necessarily want to be involved with. Porn, namely.
Right.
It's actually the perfect system for that. It actually, there's so many, but it can be used by everybody. Think about churches, right? It's the perfect system for that. They were just talking with Facebook. Facebook's really trying to tap into that industry where churches already have these pages and they want to stream videos and people can donate as they watch the streams and stuff like that, and it's all built in. Well, Facebook's going to make a killing off that, which they're, I don't think they're Christian. I'll just say that. I don't think Facebook is run by Christians, but if people want to use, Mark Zuckerberg's site and do that, then that's up to them. Whatever. Facebook's a great platform, right? Like they have all that stuff built in. It's a way for churches to raise money. Fine, whatever. That's great. Our platform, we could integrate with any of these social platforms, and that could be offered. We don't want to handle the streaming at first, but other platforms might already have it. They can incorporate us. So there's just a lot of potential there. I mean, the staking wall access is just really cool. Now there's other platforms that are launching. They don't actually exist, but they've launched their tokens and raised millions of dollars and stuff like that, and they do that with the NFTs. So you buy the NFT to get like a paywall access. But nobody's done it with the staking. I just saw that. Like that, there was a project that just launched. They raised millions of dollars. We'll see if it even becomes a platform. The thing about us is our platform is ready. Like when we launched the token, just to give you a little backdrop, we were supposed to launch the token 2 months ago, and then the market tanked. And we had a launch pad already, and they had 7 figures plus lined up for us, and I was like, oh cool, this is awesome. But the market tanked, and they're like, oh, let's delay that, until it recovers. And I was like, all right, we'll delay it. Well, now I'm like, well, we'll have the platform ready. We're getting all these partnerships lined up. The thing about launch pads is, I don't want to call them all a scam, but like if you have to be part of the launch pad to get the good deal, they pump the token up like a ton in price, and then it just plummets. So everybody like retail that gets in, they all get screwed at the beginning. Now maybe it goes back up, maybe it doesn't, but like launching without a launch pad, or at least someone will launch with like 3 to 5 launch pads at once, you're just like, it's all about this pump and dump. It's a pump and dump scam. It really is. So we might launch with one, because it does bring on like a couple hundred or even like 1,000 people initially that are like crypto addicts. But I think we're gonna go without a launch pad. It's a better way. For your community not to get screwed right away. And so yeah, that's how that started. And I was like, well, let's just launch when the platform's ready. It's really that simple. So we still don't have an exact date for the token launch, but we're thinking like around August 15th, August 20th, once our platform has been audited. So unlike 99.9% of crypto projects out there, our token is going to launch when our platform is ready. So immediately people can start using it.
That's exciting. Where will people go to start using the platform?
Let's go.finance. We might have it integrated with one of these other companies, probably not at that point. We'll start announcing partnerships after. Like, we're not even announcing who signed up for the site yet at all. Like, we haven't announced a name, because what's the point? The whole point of that would be, again, the pump and dump. I would rather just announce the names kind of like after we've launched the project, and it's just like, hey, check it out, guys. Like, so so we're launching mid-August. Let's go.finance is where you can create an account. If you're not verified, nobody can stake on you. So you can stake on yourself, but nobody can stake on you. So it's only verified accounts so you're gonna have to go through a verification process with us to have people stake on you. These are just like legal protections. I mean, it's like, sure, we can't not do that. Like, yeah, no, I understand. You can't. If you think of all the nefarious things that this could be used for, if you're just allowing like any Joe Schmo to create an account and have a community stake on them, it could be used to fund all sorts of weird things that we don't want to be involved in. So we do go through the verification process. But like any DeFi, normally you're just staking on yourself essentially. With every DeFi platform that exists, you can still do that with us. But to have the community staking on you have to go through verification.
I want to come back to the question of monetization for people who are on platforms like this, since it seems like what you've created is a really great solution to that. So one of the platforms I hope adopts your system is Gumroad, because I currently use them to receive contributions for the show. BrendonMarotta.com/show. Shameless plug if you'd like to help me out. But that seems like a really important part for creators because it's going to be the engine that fuels all this other stuff. In other words, they can't scale unless they're able to hire more people, like you mentioned, and that costs money. So when you are working with a creator on their strategy, how is it you advise them around monetization? Are you pulling up my info in another window?
I'm going to Gumroad. I've donated on Gumroad. I'm always just like, I want to see their front page layout real quick. I'm sorry. I'm going to do a little research.
You're an action taker. You're already on it.
Yeah, I'm on it. I've donated to people through there before. I bought books and stuff. What was your question?
The question was how creators should monetize or take in money to help support a team or expand or do things like that.
What are the top ways? I don't know. Like figure it out. Like a lot of people use Patreon. There's all sorts of new systems. You have Gumroad. You have that like buy me a coffee thing. I don't like any of them. I think some of them are great. They have their purpose. I'm focused. I got into DeFi and I was like, this is just too perfect for collecting donations. Like, so for me, that's my style of donations. Now, it's good to like buy something and get something back, right? I buy a diet book on Gumroad. I can see how to lose 50 pounds. I don't actually implement the diet in my life, but that's okay because I enjoy his Twitter account, right? Like, right. That's fine. Like, you can support people on there. That's great. And not to just shamelessly plug our platform, but I created it because I was like, this is actually just a better way to donate for me. Like, because I'm into this space, I'm into DeFi. I don't like to just lose money giving it to creators. I don't know. It's just like a psychological thing, right? You're like, oh, here's $100, but that hurt.
Right.
I mean, you're happy to support people, but when times get tough, the first thing I do is cancel. You know, I'll go to Patreon if I'm like, things got tough. I'm gonna cancel all these recurring things. You also lose credit cards and stuff like that. It just cancels naturally. But there's a bunch of donation sites. You might know better than me. I work for people that collect donations, for sure. And some of them are political, so that's a little different. That's like, you have like Anodot. Anodot's used for all sorts of enterprise solutions. I don't know, you have Gumroad, you have Patreon, you have the locals.com, which is Dave Rubin, his thing. That's actually kind of where it really got me thinking about a Patreon alternative. When Dave Rubin and Jordan Peterson decided to leave Patreon because they had banned Sargon of Akkad because of something really no big deal, right? Like, it was ridiculous that they banned him. So they decided to leave the platform. I think, who's the philosophy guy? Sam
Harris?
Harris also left. And he was like one of the top Patreon guys at the time. So like, him leaving was a big deal. And I think Dave Rubin he always gets a bunch of donations somehow. Like, so him leaving was a big deal as well. And of course, Jordan Peterson. And I remember I watched a video with Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin, and they were like, "Yeah, we're going to create an alternative." And I was like, "Okay, well, it's gonna be interesting to see what they do." And then what Rubin did was create like an alternative that seemed like it was pretty much the exact same thing as Patreon. They take credit card donations. Now, they've implemented some interesting elements to what they do, and they should use our system. I don't know if they'll ever come calling, but they should use our system. But they've done things since then that have differentiated a little bit. What all that is, I'm not going to get into it. But I think they got huge backing financially is what they got. And they have some really big heavy hitters behind their project now. So they're going to be successful. So that's another way. And that is more like, again, Dave Rubin is like an activist to me. I mean, that's another one where he's going to have his community, and it's locals.com. I have a feeling they're going to try to open up to different communities, but we'll see how it goes. They have a guy backing them that was a co-founder of PayPal. So they have like really legit people behind them. So there's all these different systems that exist. None are doing what we're doing right now. So that, I don't know. There's a number of ways to make money. With them, it's like locals. It's like communities. It feels like a safe space in a way. It's like people that think like me, you know? We're all here to have a civil discussion.
Right.
I'm not interested in talking on our platform. We are not, well, I shouldn't say this, but we are a free money platform. So you have free speech platforms. We're a free money platform where you're free to make money on our platform.
Free money is a very popular idea. I'm into it already.
Oh, people love free speech. Oh, yeah, keep talking. Let's see how that works out for you. We're about making money here. So we want to streamline the making money process. You can go talk somewhere else.
You know, my next question was going to be about how to get people to adopt the platform, but free money is a really good pitch. I'm interested already, but I am curious how you handle that question of how, because I've noticed this whenever I try to get my own audience to move from one platform to another. That there's a lot of people who, like, you'll talk to them and they'll say like, man, I don't like Facebook and it's terrible and it's bad. And I'll be like, well, have you tried these other websites? I have presence on them. You should come join me. And they're like, yeah, I don't know, it's too complex. I won't figure, you know, all the excuses come out. So I'm curious how you handle that question of getting people to move from one platform to another.
We're going to try to integrate with your platform. Tell your platform that they should integrate our software. First of all. Secondly, you know, if they want to just have an account on Let's Go Finance and our URL and stuff like that, it's really like the money is going to speak for itself. People are either making money on our platform or they're not. We're going to come out with a very nice influencer list to begin with. And I think we're going to have a lot of proof of concept from that. And from there, people are like, oh, I want to make money too. Like, it doesn't exist anywhere else. So it's kind of like, what do you have to lose? You create accounts on all these different social media sites where you never make money. Like, they don't even like pretend that you'll make money. It's just like, bring your audience to our site. Why? So then you can say the same things on here that you're saying somewhere else.
Well, it's funny because I find that that's often the social media strategy is you create one really big piece of content and then break it into chunks. So you're effectively saying the same thing on every platform. There's only a few that I have time to like make something specific for. Mm-hmm. And so I see what you're saying that like.
So the final thing of like motivation for coming on our platform would be like the community governance. So if you own our ego token, it gives you voting rights. And we're taking a sizable percentage of what we make off platform fees, and we're giving it to the community to vote where that money is going to be distributed. So it could go to a new media launch, it could go to an activist cause, it could go to like Johnny with a brain tumor, it could go to a disaster that just happened in the world. It could go to anything that people vote for, and we'll have different categories as things develop. Like we could have specific for a media launch, we could have specific for disaster relief, specific for like feeding the hungry or fertility clinics or whatever. And so we can have different categories of things, but essentially you'll be able to vote where things go. And my hope is that we have competing forces lobbying for this cash. You have people wanting to accumulate the token. Let's say like an influencer is always like being like an activist on social media, and then you're staking on them on our platform. This is purely hypothetical, but you know, I think it could play out. You're staking on them, and the first thing they do is they take their ego token and they trade it for cash. Well, they're giving away all their voting rights when they could actually vote so their money could go to their causes. And it's like, well, how much do you really care about your cause, right? Like, you're just giving away your vote. So you're just like complaining on social media all the time. But this one platform that actually gives you a method to donate thousands, hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of dollars to this cause, you're just giving away your voting rights. So I think that whole concept is like insane, because this is we're taking a percentage, and a sizable percentage, and we're giving it to the community to vote on where the money should be spent. So that could go insane. I mean, when it comes to partnerships and helping develop new companies, new charities, existing charities, the amount of influence that we could develop through that would be insane. And the other thing about community and crypto is like the selfish nature, greed is good nature of crypto. You don't need to work hard for a community that's completely addicted to your project. There's what they call shit coins that have communities of thousands of people that will spend all day defending their shit token that has some no purpose to the token. You don't even know who the developer, you don't even know who the founders are. And they'll like, argue all day about their token and how it's going to go to the moon. It's completely pointless. It's so stupid, other than they want to get rich. So you have that just built into our system, right? You have that built in, for better or worse. But in addition, we have we're a real platform. We want to donate to real causes. We want to raise money for legit purposes. So there's like that whole, and in every way, I feel like we have an advantage over anything that exists right now. And you just go on down the line, because nobody's doing this. Nobody's doing this. There's charity tokens. We're not a charity token. We're a donation platform. We're not a charity token. The difference is some charity tokens are scams. Why did they have to create a token for the charity? So the founders get rich. It's like literally why they did it. And then they just pump it. Oh, we're giving money to this. It's like, yeah, you're giving like 3% of your, of the millions of dollars you're making, give it to this charity, or even if it's like 20%. Anyways, we're not a charity site. We're a donation site. But we're going to be giving money to charity through the community governance, which is built in. Like, I've worked for politicians. I understand this whole activist thing. And if we can tap into that, my dream is to have Black Lives Matter competing against Thin Blue Line for millions of dollars. That would be completely epic. That would be awesome. Do I think it's going to happen? Probably not, because they'll try to pin me in some category, even though I'm not an activist, and prevent that from happening. And then some other people can steal our platform and use it for their own cause, which fine, good luck. We'll have our niche, who knows? But even if it's within a certain niche, there's going to be competing forces for the cash. So that's where this is going as well.
That is really exciting, and if your platform is up by the time this show is, I'll put my presence on the platform in the show notes, because I'd love for the people who are listening to come join us there.
Yeah, the thing about being verified is you can stake on yourself, which is always nice. You can get your fans to stake on you. So it just makes total sense. Nowhere in my mind does it not make sense. The only as a compliment to what you're already doing, don't leave Gumroad. Your fans should stay on Gumroad. There's a lot of people that prefer Gumroad. There's a lot of people that aren't going to come to Web3 for 5 years. Like they're not going to. So don't ditch what you're doing. It's a compliment to what you're doing, and maybe we can integrate with what you're doing. We're trying to network with as many people and enterprise solutions as we can, but it's just a compliment. The thing is, all right, here's the other deal with what I saw with DeFi. There are DeFi staking platforms where you don't know who founded it. It's a literal clone of an existing project. Like there's PancakeSwap on Binance Smart Chain. There's like 1,000 clones of PancakeSwap, right? Where people just steal the code, they create a duplicate, and you'll have hundreds of millions worth of tokens staked on their platform, sometimes billions. And you don't know who founded it. It's not even an original platform. They just stole the code from somebody else. That's the amount of money that's in the crypto space. So now if you take something that's legitimate, legitimate causes, legitimate people, legitimate purpose, here I am, for better or worse, this is me. This is the guy that's one of the guys behind the project, And our team, we've all outed ourselves. You can find us on the website. So you have that working. I mean, it's just like, why would you stake your money on this project when this, like, it's why rug pulls happen. It's why people steal money, because they don't have to tell people who they are. And if somebody doesn't even take the time to develop our original platform, they just like change the colors. Like, how much could you really? Why do you have hundreds of millions staked on there? Like, what are people doing? Well, they're just trying to get rich, right? Trying to make that quick buck, trying to get these insane APY rates. So that's what's happening. I saw that, and that's another. I was like, this is just stupid. Like, we need more legitimate forces in this space. So that's what this is about. And the Congress and the SEC, they're trying to come up with regulations. But I think this space should be pretty safe. Pretty safe. The problem with regulation is they're going to regulate legitimate people out of it, and then it all goes to like the shady people that won't show their face. So that's that would be the only risk to our platform, I feel, is like the government getting in the way. That's the long-term risk, and if you have to operate in a dark room, I guess you do. I'd rather not. So other than that, I mean, that's it. I think you get it, and that's the great thing too. Like, I talk to people. Are you much into crypto at all?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I don't talk about it a lot on the show, but I've been interested in it since 2014 at least.
Yeah. That's when I heard about it before, but that's when I first kind of got into it. Well, it's easy for you to understand. But I've talked to people that don't get. Education is the obstacle with our platform. Now, for me, it's like set up a MetaMask wallet, dummy. That's all you need. And then you have to set up a Binance account, Binance.us if you're in the United States, or a Coinbase account to send, like, there's a few steps there, right? But really, it's just set up a MetaMask wallet. That's all you need to do. Then when you get money in there, then you can figure out what to do next. That's essentially, education is the big thing. We want to onboard. With these projects that launch on these launch pads, all they're doing is recycling market share. And then finding some idiots that throw in cash because they see a coin just went up like 1,000%. And they're like, oh, good time to put money in, and then it crashes. And that's how they make. So then they'll launch a new project and they recycle market share. Then they launch a new project, recycle market share. That's what I've seen. And I'm just like, it's crazy because these people are just printing cash. They're making a lot of money, but it's insane. So we're not trying to just recycle market share. We would love to bring in a whole new market share. Like, there's people that we want. First time I got involved in DeFi was with Let's Go.finance, or with whatever platform that's adopted our software. Like, we want to help bring people into the space. We want a bunch of noobs. That would be the dream. And we're going to do that with the influencers that we have coming on board. A lot of them have never done this stuff before. I mean, I just had a conversation with somebody that it's very popular on Twitter yesterday. She's down to join. What did I have to do? I had to send her a tutorial on how to set up a MetaMask wallet. So now I have to wait for her to set the MetaMask wallet. She's going to give us the number, and boom, she's got an account. She will be very successful on our platform. There is zero doubt in my mind that people are going to stake on her because she's extremely talented, and you're not actually paying her. It's just like, this is the person I'm going to stake on because she's super entertaining and awesome. So
if you have tutorials like that and you send them to me, I will include them in the show notes. So
I haven't developed too many tutorials myself. There's so many good oones on YouTube if you type in how to set up a MetaMask wallet, and I will send you the ones that I prefer.
Okay.
There's like a 5-minute one, there's a 15-minute one, there's a half-hour one. It's like, how much do you want to learn about the MetaMask wallet?
A question, like, does it have to be MetaMask, or is another wallet like Celsius,
we're going to integrate.
Exodus?
You could have your Ledger device. You could have like all of these different things. On launch, we're just MetaMask, but we're going to have multiples. It's not a big deal. It's just, we're just sticking with MetaMask on launch, trying to keep everything as simple as possible. Even like staking, we just have single token staking. Like, you just stake USDC. A lot of oftentimes they have these liquidity pools, and so it'll be like USDC with Binance token, and you like combine them, right? And then you stake. Like, we're not even doing that. We're just allowing people to do single token staking at the beginning. It's as easy as possible. We're really trying to create a platform to bring in newbies. That's literally what we're doing. And then we'll get more complex as we go.
Cool.
So yeah, that's it, man. I really appreciate having me on the show. You're the first podcast I've done. I've never done a podcast before.
Wow. Well, I'm honored. I'm glad.
Yeah.
Do you have time for one or two more questions, or do we need to wrap up?
No, the thunder sounds like it's going in a distance further away from me, so it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Well, what I was going to ask is, since someone like yourself, you said this is the first public podcast you've done, but I'm always interested in finding people who can help, like you mentioned, building a crew, scaling, things like that. How does someone find a person who plays your role for a creator? Because I wouldn't have known about you except through a friend of a friend. And so, whereas creators, they are trying to put themselves out there as much as possible. Someone like yourself, people might not be aware of.
People like me have zero power. It's absurd. Nobody respects the guy that doesn't show his face. It doesn't matter if I tell somebody I got 20 billion video views and worked with this person, and that person. They don't care. Like, whatever. What are you trying to sell me? Especially in the crypto space, it's been difficult. There's a lot of people that just can get the job done, that are behind the scenes. How do you find them? I think it's just like finding a contractor of any kind. It's just a matter of you just keep digging until you find that right fit. For me, it's usually been like a personality thing. You have to have certain values aligned, or they have to really understand the type of content you're working with, or else you're doing so much micromanagement. It's just tedious and horrible. I had a client that I wish I still worked with her. She's fantastic, and she's like blown up. Like, I knew she would. It was such a for sure thing. And I worked with her for a month, and I had somebody that I found to work specifically on her project, right? Like the content creator, the blogger, and really help manage things. But then they didn't get along. The one girl quit. And then I was like, to my team, I was like, okay, who wants to work on this project? And nobody wanted to. Whoa, that was loud.
That was a loud one.
There was lightning very close, actually. Anyways, so that just didn't work out because we didn't have the right, I had the right skill set to really help her out. I liked it, but I wasn't going to spend all the time working with her. I had to have my, people on my team because I was busy, kind of just managing. It didn't work out because I didn't have the right personality type to deal with her. And
was it like interpersonal conflict? Or they just didn't get our content, or what was the mismatch?
The first was a personality thing. The first conflict was a personality thing, and it's nobody's fault. It is what it is. And after that, it was really just nobody wanted to work on our project because there were other projects that they were more excited to work on. And you can't force somebody to work on something that, you can force somebody to work on something, but the content's not going to be that good. It's just, you have to be excited about the person you're working with. At least I do. Most people do, especially these days. I almost think everybody falls into that category now. If you aren't at least a little bit interested in what you're doing, it's just no fun. So that's kind of where I was, where I had a guy that would have been perfect for her if he was into it. I couldn't get him to be into it. So I was I told her, we're done, this isn't going to work. And that really was tough because I've seen her, she's huge. And I knew she'd be huge. And I would have probably just should have taken the lead to an extent with her myself, looking back. But at the time, it wasn't my top priority. So you just have to find people that align with your values, and the timing has to be right. I know I talked to her. I saw her at a conference a year or two ago, and I was like, yeah, nice to meet you finally in person. And she said, yeah, the next company I brought on, it was a disaster. It did not work out. But she's found people since then, and they do a great job. And whoever she found is probably doing a better job than I would have done. You could tell, she just went through that process of finding the right people. there's like no overnight solution. I could say, oh, I got 20 billion video views, but it doesn't mean I'm going to do that with you. Not at all. First of all, the landscape has changed so much. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. That was something I wanted to ask about, actually, is, since you've been doing this for 15 years,
Mm-hmm.
and the internet moves at a faster pace than any other thing in history, what has that change been over time? Like, how has it changed during the time you've worked on this?
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of like having a blog and sharing on social media and getting a bazillion clicks, it's become harder. I don't follow that model anymore. I really got tired of the space in a lot of ways because of the change. I partnered with somebody who's extremely good on a couple platforms, and I saw that he was extremely good, and I was like, you're going to be my business partner. And he's helped carry me through some of the changes that we went through, and he really knows what he does. He has specific skill sets, and we've been able to expand that and be successful. But I created this platform in a way because I was like, I just need my own platform to work with these influencers and companies and stuff. And you know how I said a minute ago, like, nobody respects you if you don't show your face? Like, I was tired of just reaching out to people and trying to convince them that I didn't suck. It gets to be so old. I'd rather them just come to me and me make people a bunch of money, and it's like public, like, come here. Yeah. And that was another reason I was like, I can't continue to do this. I think I would rather just start blogging and move to South America and live on my staking profits, like literally, and just be cool with it. Like, that's kind of where I was getting to be mentally. But then I had this idea for the platform. So
I can see why that process of pitching yourself would get old, because if you could somehow take those 20 billion views and like attach it to your social media presence, then when someone saw that, they would go, oh, you're the guy who did that, the way that they would when they see a creator. But when you message someone a cold email and say, hey, I've gotten 20 billion views, they're like, come on, that's got to be made up. Who's this guy,
So I always wanted to be behind the scenes because it's just my personality. I don't like to be front facing. If I could do a YouTube video channel, and I used to have that stuff back in the day, but like, I don't know. I tried it. It just didn't vibe with me. The only reason I'm doing it now is because I have something very unique here. And this is
You do.
This is deserving of, somebody has to represent it. I know the product, the concept, the vision better than anybody else, so it's on me. Here we go. So I'm willing to do it now. But the other reason I wasn't front facing when I was working for these clients is how does that help my client?
Right.
When I work with a client that's health, and then I work with a client that's politics, and if the health guy knew that the same guy was managing this crazy political person with this health person, it's gonna make it like 50% of their audience is not gonna like that. So to protect my clients, I just was behind the scenes, and that was easy for me because that's more my natural thing anyways, and that was just a good excuse for me. But at the same time, I feel like it made me a better client if I was behind the scenes. Now I see a lot of agencies that they're not behind the scenes, they're front facing. There's advantages to that. First of all, you're able to get clients easier because you're front facing and everybody knows you're important, right? You talk about it all the time. And you're able to get clients easier. But at the same time, it's like double-edged sword, because let's say, you're making videos and your videos are awesome, but then people are just like, oh, he just got so-and-so's video to make a video for him, and it's, screw them. Like, it's about the person making the video, not about the client whose video it came out for. And then, like, if you have a social media account and you're constantly like promoting your clients, then people might not like you, and so then they're not going to support your clients. So it goes both ways. Looking back, I should have probably been more front-facing. I should have been promoting something through these people. When I was getting those billions of views, I should have just created my own thing and pumped it through, and then I would have had like my own Facebook page with millions of people and all that stuff. Like, looking back, it would have been But at the time, I was like, I don't really want to, and it's better for my clients if they don't know me, if I'm not known.
I really appreciate the behind the scenes aspect, because every famous person I've ever met or gotten to know even a little bit in real life has someone like you on their team. Like it's very consistent. And I remember reading a book by someone who is a reporter who was talking about there's a celebrity who had all their phone numbers leaked. And he said the press was talking about the famous people that this other famous person knew. And he said the smart journalists were looking and going, who's this random person that like somehow got in this famous person's phone? Because that's someone who's actually important. That's a manager, that's a financial advisor, that's maybe a drug dealer because of this particular celebrity whose phone number was leaked. Yeah. But like that's where the actual story is. So I'm curious too. But I also see the other perspective you mentioned of, if you were to build your own brand and then use the influencers to help that would probably be a good integration between the two.
I decided to just develop a platform that can house hundreds or thousands of influencers, and we can just do what we do on scale. And this is the ultimate solution. This is the hill I'm going to die on.
It's a good hill.
Yeah, this is it. It feels like my last hurrah. I wouldn't like to say that, but it really feels like, it's a culmination of like all of these years, and now it's time to just, this platform is ready, and now we can get it going. So we'll see how it goes, but it goes both ways. I know LeBron James' manager, he's dating Adele, so I think it's worked out for him. I mean, think of what you want about Adele's appearance, I guess, but the lady is like insane, insane success. She'd probably be awesome to date, like that life. I don't know, it's worked out for him is my point, right? Like there's some managers that become more front facing. The other thing about me is I don't hang out with my clients. Like there's clients I've met like once and I've worked with for, a couple of years, right? So I'm not like traveling around with people. The one client I had like an insane traveling schedule and did all these insane things, and he had groups around him, and everybody knew the people that were around him, but they didn't know me, and I was actually like managing a lot of his stuff, and nobody knew me. So that was like, there's different ways to go about that. I just I have a family, I have a marriage, I want to be successful. So I'm not going to travel around with like famous people. Sounds like a recipe for disaster,
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to ask was, you mentioned a couple clients you met who you just knew like this person's going to be big, or this is going to be a successful person even though they're just starting out. And I was curious what the it factor was you identified that makes you think, oh, this creator's going places.
Yeah, if they make people emotional. Like, the more people hate them and love them, the bigger they're going to be. So you can just see if you get people's emotions going as a creator, you can tap into that so well. And that's why, like me, being front-facing, I can't get people to be emotional. I've tried. I can get people to hate me pretty well sometimes. That's easy. You can be annoying, but the hate and love, if you can get both going, that's the magical recipe. So if the health client I had, he's alternative health. I mean, you should see that. I did high-end political, right? Like the biggest political figure for a time. Didn't compare to the hate that this health guy got. Didn't compare. And it was big pharma and big pharma trolls. It's so well funded, it's so insane. And the amount of hate he got, it's just shocking to think about. It's like, how is that, like, people hate him so much? How is that possible? So people have that thing about them, that people love and hate that person. And if you see that, then you should reach out to them. Now in crypto, you don't get that as much. And these influencers, there's people that love and hate people in crypto. Those people do exist. But these different industries, alternative health, somebody might think one way, and then of course, the system, right? Whether it's about vaccines, I know, you have certain health topics you'd like to talk about a lot. There's a lot of things there. Circumcision is what I'm thinking of. But there's a lot of health topics that are very divisive. So if you have somebody that's very charismatic, maybe a little crazy, and is very intelligent to talk about these things, then that's that right there. Charismatic, crazy, and intelligent. If you get those three, and crazy can be in quotes, but they all, it takes a personality to put yourself out there. They are all a little crazy. So that's the magical combo. If you see that and you're a great creator and you relate to what they do, what you want to do is you want to provide services for free. If you know that you can produce content for this person and scale and grow them, you want to reach out to them, especially if you see that they're not scaling properly, right? If you can tell, like, they're not scaling, obviously once you're bigger, you can find people that are already big and things like that. But like, if you can see like this person's not scaling like they can, like the health guy was stealing my content, that made it kind of easy. But like, he also was just making memes at the time, right? And a lot of them were stolen. Some of them were original. He had a meme person. She does a great job, but she did a great job. But like, yeah, that's the magical combo. So you see that magical combo, and you see it in somebody that's doing something that you know really, really well. Like if you were an influencer, this is probably one of the things you'd be talking about, right? And you just provide free work. So the two big clients that I think I told you about before this interview, like, I actually fronted everything for like 2 months with both of them. I basically threw like $10,000 into, this is when I was already a little more established, right? You could just be you providing the content. You don't have to front money. It could just be your efforts. But at the time I had some cash, right? And I knew. I was like, oh, I'll make this guy blow up. Like I knew. So I was like, I'll do it for free, and then we would just split profits. That's like literally what the two deals I had with both of them were. I'll just split profits with you. So then like they literally never, sometimes the money would go to them and they'd have to cut you a check, or you could divide it up so the money kind of went to both of you. You could like develop systems. And so yeah, you just find those people that need help and that you think you can provide anything. I fronted about 10 grand or 2 months of work with both of them, and it was like such a no-brainer with each. I made it a lot of cash with both of them. So that's what you want to do. And finding people that just produce great content, and have an audience, that works too. But if you really want them to go really big, it's the emotional stuff.
It's the deeply polarizing emotional reaction.
Yeah, people that trigger other people are gold to clicks and views. Yeah. Yeah, and they're not afraid to talk about things other people won't talk about. Like, these taboo topics, which, by the way, I didn't get into that. Nobody does that in crypto right now. Very odd. Very odd. They're changing the economic structure of America. They're changing the money system. That's all revolutionary. That's awesome, right? There's a lot of crazy stuff with that. But who's talking about taboo subjects on crypto?
What are the taboo subjects on crypto?
Well, who's talking about mandatory vaccines through NFTs? Who's talking about all sorts of things I don't even need to talk about because I'm not an activist? And
sorry, I almost got you in trouble.
Let your imagination go, right? I mean, there's a lot of taboo topics out there, and you look at these NFTs that are out there in the space. By the way, our NFTs function as like a GoFundMe, right? It's more of a one-time donation. You buy an NFT, but look at the NFTs. Meaningless. You have the Dogecoin token, whatever, the Doge pound. Like they're all selling for insane amounts. You have all these different NFT series that come out, or basketball players, or NBA Top Shots, and What's transformational about that? What's changing how society looks at things about that? What's making the news with that? I can tell you a client that we're probably going to bring in, and he has enough fundraising idea that will trigger the living crap out of everybody. You know, like, so like nobody's doing these taboo subjects with NFTs. I don't get it. It's like insane. I mean, I'm just like shocked. I'm like, okay, well, I guess you guys just want to like post, you know, Pepe dancing memes. I guess that's what you want to do and sell them, but I don't feel like that can be part of what you do. But why wouldn't you do stuff that's like Beeple has done it a little bit, and he's the top NFT creator. When Trump got banned from Twitter, he created an NFT. He created an NFT, minted an NFT that like of Trump laying down naked with a Twitter bird over his head, and it had all these tattoos of like all the stuff that Trump supposedly stands for. Had like a Proud Boys tattoo. It had like, it was, I don't care what your politics is. It was an interesting piece, right?
Right.
It sold for millions of dollars. So he's ventured into the political realm a little bit, and of course you could say that mainstream people approve of that. Like that's something that Mark Cuban can get behind, right? And NBC can get behind, and all these people that are going to promote it. But what about the things that they won't get behind? Nobody's tapped into that stuff. All these taboo things that the mainstream won't approve of. Nobody's done that. And I mean, not all of it's going to be pretty, but it's coming. I mean, I don't understand what's going on. Crypto people they're dissident personality types. I think people avoid this stuff because they're all just trying to make money. Even though I think there's a lot of money in it, like, I don't know, like that's all I can't really figure it out, you know, because you look at the memes that dominated for a few years that, you know, got everybody banned and all these taboo topics and all these things that are coming out. It hasn't hit the NFT space. And I think OpenSea, you know, they do censor, you know, what's being posted there. I think these different NFT platforms do censor. I think that might be part of it, but, you know, I'll just throw this out there. Like, why aren't people making NFTs about LeBron James? But instead of him slam dunking a basketball, it's him like kneeling to China and like looking goofy. Like, why aren't people you know, like these types of things? I see it online, but they're not in an NFT form. Well, why would somebody buy that? Well, to donate to the creator. I mean, that's it. Maybe it has a lot of value in the future, and maybe it doesn't, but it's just a way to support artists, way to push information out there. So I don't know. Like, that's another thing that we don't even need to get into it because our platform is not really that. But when I look at the NFT space right now, it's really void of any meaning. There's nothing. It's just like, buy my cool picture because. And now we have a bunch of people giving it value. It's so vapid and meaningless. I don't get it.
I've been very underwhelmed by most of what I've seen so far in NFTs, but I can also see that there's something there that could be huge.
What would Alex Jones's Turning the Frogs Gay video sell for as an NFT?
So I guess I have a question about that, because as far as I can tell, an NFT, non-fungible token, is a piece of code that directs you to a link. And that's always been a sticking point for me.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it is, but I mean, never mind what you're actually buying. My point is, like, that's a cultural moment. Like, everybody knows what that is. I mean, whether you like Alex Jones or hate Alex Jones, or you don't care about Alex Jones, you probably have heard that.
Sure.
And so there's all these like cultural moments that are out there that people own the content and they could sell it. And a lot of that's just not happening right now. And I don't understand why. So I don't have an answer as to why it's not happening. But nobody's tapping into it. They would rather just sell NBA Top Shots. It's like, okay, trading cards are cool, but I don't know.
You know, this might relate to a larger problem that creators have, which is that controversy sells, polarization sells, And yet, if you become too polarizing, you might get censored and banned, or attract all of the problems that come with hyperpolarization. And
Yeah.
so what I notice,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, well, the dissident audience is filled with losers. This is the problem. So when you want to talk about things that are taboo, it's in a sense great, because there's always truth to a lot. There's truth to a lot of things, and if you can't talk about it, somebody should be talking about it. The problem is, normal people aren't going to fill up your comments. It's going to be, there's some people that agree with you that are good people and they just want to speak the truth, but then there's some people that are just losers, and they'll separate you from mainstream to the point where you can never go back. And I don't want to be that personally, and I've never recommended to my clients that they do that. What I tell my clients is, once you go extreme, you can't go back. Like, you always should start out mainstream. Don't start out extreme. That's stupid. Now, if you get overwhelmed and there's a hill you want to die on, okay, if you want to start talking about flat Earth, fine. Go ahead and talk about flat Earth. Just know that it's going to put you in a certain category. Or if you want to talk about other taboo things I'm not going to talk about, like, go ahead and do that, but you're not going to be accepted. And not just accepted, but you're going to have this filth that follows you around in the form of like commenting and your audience. Yeah, there's a lot of great people in in all sorts of segments. I understand that, but there is something for the guy that's willing to speak about taboo subjects. You look at his comments and you see these. I almost think it's like Fed, like Fed posting like under their stuff to make them like even more irrelevant. And it's like, oh, it just fills it up. So that's what I worry about with our platform. Because we are decentralized, like there's going to be those elements. It's unavoidable to an extent, but like, just losers. These people are losers. They're obsessed. If you know some of them, and I do, you'll see that they don't have a wife, they don't have kids, yet they talk about white person fertility rates all the time. All the time. It's like all they talk about. And that they don't have a wife or kids, and that they're over 40 years old, and it makes no sense at all, except that they're losers. So this is like, they're projecting. That's what they're doing. They're projecting. Some of them are, maybe they're not losers. That might be a little harsh, but they're like stuck in this like projection of their own failure.
There's going to be a segment that are losers, even if not all are.
Being mainstream and just dangling your toes in the water of alternative is fun. Being fully submerged in the alternative is not always healthy for people. Some people can do it, but I think a lot of people, you're really disconnecting yourself. I mean, the mainstream's stupid. I mean, mainstream's so dumb, you can't talk about anything. I get that, but still, you have to be in the arena, right? So I think we're getting like a little bit off topic but like these are concerns I have about our platform, just to bring it back to that. Like, I'm like,
sure.
Okay, well, if we allow these taboo things to be posted, then we're going to bring these certain types of people. Then other people are going to leave because they're like, oh, well, there's a bunch of, insert ism here. And that's the risk,
What you're describing is a problem that I think every platform faces, which is toxic personalities. And if you let too many toxic people into a group, then people who don't want to be around toxic people will leave. But at the same time, you want to give your friends or the people who are showing up in a group permission to be open or talk about things that maybe are a little taboo or scary to talk about, but hopefully in a way that isn't toxic. And so there's a challenge there of if you moderate and regulate things too much or just start kicking people out, then people might not feel like it's safe to have important conversations. And at the same time, if you let the toxic people just be toxic to everyone all the time, then no one wants to hang out around toxic people.
Yes. So there's a balance there. Like with Twitter, I talked to somebody that has a lot of influence on Twitter. Like, he has a huge Twitter following. And we were talking about the people that got banned. And I was like, well, I like the idea that Twitter has like a grace period where like you're banned, but then they'll let you back on. And these people should get a second chance. And he's like, what do you think is going to happen when they get a second chance? Like, they're going to get banned again. Like he's right, actually. I mean, the rules at Twitter are absurd because they're always changing and you can't define them, and they're just trying to change the goalpost, and it's impossible. And I have tons of issues with Twitter and Facebook. Facebook literally stole millions of dollars from me. Like, they literally did. I mean, all I had to do is do what I was doing for a couple more years, and I was good, And like, they did a bait and switch. You run, most of our growth was organic, but I still spent tons of money on people to grow organically. And then there's other platforms that spent tons of money on ads, and then they do a bait and switch. I'm like, no, now you can only reach like
right
0.5% of your audience rather than like 10%. Like, what? Like, how can you just do that? Well, they lost control of the narrative, and they want to get that back. And oh no, now we just want to be more mainstream. We can't allow like these authentic views of normal Americans in middle America. It's got to be all about what the coastal elites are thinking, or whatever it might be, however you want to define it. But it was a bait and switch. That's what you spend all this time and money and resources on these platforms, then they change the rules, change the algorithm, and screw you over. It's a bait and switch. So that is my big issue. Now, there's a lot of those people, they're going to get back on the platform, and they're just going to troll, and they're going to get banned again, for sure. I mean, there's no doubt that's going to happen. That's why we're largely going to avoid speech on our platform. We're a free money platform. I never wanted personally to manage, I never wanted to launch a social media site. It never seemed fun to me. It seemed pretty miserable. And so I'd like to integrate our software into existing social media sites. I do like the idea of allowing comments on NFTs and socializing it to an extent, because for some reason nobody's doing that, and it's just such an obvious thing. But we're not trying to be a social media site. Even the staking law, I'm like, we'll see how it goes. Because what I don't want people to do is I don't want people to disrupt other people's ability to make money. We are a free money platform, 100%. That's top precedent. If you're screwing up other people's ability to make money, then we're gonna have to just limit those features that allow you to do that, because that's not cool. I mean, running these social media sites is horrible. Who likes it?
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's no fun.
I briefly explored, actually not briefly, it was a fairly long development process exploring the possibility of creating a niche social media site for the people who are interested in the issue of my film. And I ran into all the problems that you described of, okay, we got to moderate, we also got to have security, make sure people's information doesn't get leaked. And man, to do it right, I think I would have had to spend a lot more money than I could at that point. And even then, Facebook, some of the richest people in the world have not been able to figure out this moderation question.
Yeah, no, it's horrible. How do you manage it? You can't manage it. You can't manage it effectively. I don't. And then not only that, like, you have all the mainstream media after you. You have like the FBI after you. You have all these different forces, and it's like you don't really understand what is actually going on behind the scenes. Then you have investors. It just goes on and on. You have legitimate threats. I mean, there's like legitimate threats of violence. Your movements are starting, like terrorist type stuff, like money laundering. It's crazy. And to a degree, even like this free money concept, it's a little bit unavoidable. There's issues that are going to crop up, but free speech is is a tricky issue, and I just don't think any mainstream platform will ever allow free speech. There's none of that that's possible. Alternative, if you want to talk about whatever you want to talk about, you can go to gab.com. That's pretty much, there's places for it, and you go to it. And that's great. I'm glad places like that exist. But mainstream, it's basically like, it's as if you want to get on network television and say whatever the heck you want. No, that's not how it's not how it works. You have to play by these like ridiculous rules. It's almost like it's high school. It's grade school. It's like you're stuck in grade school forever, where you can only say certain things and behave in a certain way. That's what. And if you want to eat at the grade school table, then you have to behave in the grade school way, which is very simplified, dumbed down thinking that makes you want to put a fork in your eyeball. But that is what you have to do to eat at that table. Now, you can be successful and not eat at that table. Like, there's other ways to go about things. We're trying to give people a way to make money. And, the problem with these alternative social media platforms, you need so many people on your platform to compete with Twitter. It's like, and for people to actually generate revenue on them, where it's like you have an audience and you can share a link and get clicks and sell products, and it's so hard to get that audience. Like that Getter.com and Gab.com are like kind of getting close, or they're there or not quite there. I'm not sure where they're at with that. It depends on who you are, but it's so hard to get to that level. And like crypto Twitter is awesome right now. It's fun. Like crypto Twitter is good. I know like music Twitter, people have a lot of fun with music Twitter. I think there's probably film Twitter, right? This whole segment, like there's different where it's still fun.
Well, it's because it's a niche subculture.
Yeah.
So if you think about the places that are really fun to hang out, they're the places where you have a lot of interesting people who have some depth of relationship or shared culture. And the places that aren't as fun to hang out are the ones where you don't know anyone, and there's people who interrupt your conversation or the things you're talking about or that you're wanting to do with stuff that's unrelated. And it's the, I think part of the challenge all of these social media platforms have is that they'd really like to just be able to make their moderation policy no toxic people. But no one can agree on what a toxic person is or how that's defined. And identifying toxic people is often really difficult, but that is the moderation policy that most real life spaces have, is that there's an owner, and if you come in and you cause trouble, he kicks you out.
That's a good point. Yeah, you gotta eat at the table. I mean, some people don't let you put your elbows on the table. Some people don't like it when you eat with your mouth open. Some people don't care about it.
Every community has a different definition of what a toxic person is, but they're all on the same platform, getting mad at each other instead.
Yeah, I mean, Trump, at least half the country would say he's a toxic person, and probably a lot more than that. Even people that voted for him could admit that he could be incredibly toxic. Like, did he really have to poke that bear? Did he really have to say that? Like, these are things where you're like, do we have to go through these? Like, now we have to talk about this for 2 weeks? Like, really? Like, can we just live our lives? That's what he did. And sometimes it's good, and then sometimes it's tiresome. And so I think like the tiresome part is like, I don't know. It just gets to be so overwhelming when you get into it. And the other thing I'll say about politics Twitter is, just because you have something in common with somebody on politics, it is important. It is big. But, it doesn't mean they're like the funnest people to hang out with, or they're healthy people. Maybe it's more fun to hang out with somebody that you have music in common with, and gaming in common with, or crypto in common with. It's just a shame that it really has divided people in a way where I have to worry about with our platform is like, well, are we going to exclude like 50% of the population just because we allow certain content? Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't like it. And half my family doesn't think like I do politically, at least. So, and I still hang out with them to a degree.
I've noticed that polarization as well, because the subject of my film work and my podcast has often been, children and children's rights, and the idea that people should be welcomed into the world in a way that's loving. And I don't see that as belonging to any political party or faction or anything like that. I feel like that's a human thing that everybody should do. But I do notice that half my audience is very much in one camp and half my audience is very much in another camp politically. And every now and then they'll notice each other in the comment section. They'll be like, wait a minute, there's other people in your audience who don't think this way? Like, why are the bad people here?
Yeah. So circumcision and spanking. I mean, those are like, I think two things that you've talked about, right? Like, they're very divisive. A lot of people were spanked, and a lot of people spank. And there's arguments to be made that there's utility to it. And I turned out fine, damn it, right? And so you defend. I mean, there's nuance to these topics. Like, there is nuance to these topics. Like, for me, it's not all black and white, personally. I do believe that peaceful parenting is the thing to strive for, right? I also believe that some people aren't there, and they're parents, and they're doing a good job. So, like, it's tough, right? And circumcision is... I don't really want to get into circumcision with you. I agree with what you say. I have kids, and I have seen though that there are complications with not circumcision. Like I've seen it, right? Like, so there's a little bit of nuance there, even, right? There's the growth there, and there can be complications if you don't get circumcised. So I see that there are potentially some medical reasons to get circumcised, right? Like, it can happen. So I think there's nuance there, even though I'm in agreement with you on those things. I think for the most part, I do also see nuance there from personal experience, and I also think people are just going to defend. It doesn't matter what the topic is, man. And people just like to disagree with you. It's like this thing that we have.
Yeah.
Like, it's like devil's advocate. Like, people just can't help themselves.
One of the things that initially got us talking about doing a podcast together was a post you'd made online talking about how the clients that you had who worked in health or alternative health or were influencers in that space in some way often got more controversy than the political people. And I wanted to know more about why you thought that was, or if there was a nuance to how that polarization or controversy was different than, say, political polarization.
Well, it's more now than ever on the health side. Things are polarized. But really the topics that really made people go crazy are the vaccines. And it's also what led to social media bannings. With the Pinterest was the first one. My client got banned from Pinterest. And it was because of the vaccine stuff. And the Pinterest guy, you can go, whatever, You can research all these companies, but and I think a lot of it is funded by Big Pharma. They have, so what would happen was they would come out, literally overnight, we'd have like thousands of trolls. It would happen like every 2 months. All of a sudden we have like thousands of trolls. It's such an obvious thing that they do, but then there's all these stragglers that just hang around. We had a full-time person, like in comments, full-time. We paid this dude like 30 grand a year to like delete comments. That's how insane it was. We never had that with politics. But I think a lot of it's paid, and then you have these, what we would call autistic men that I think just did it like because they were hardcore about it, that would like call stragglers. So they would come out with these massive waves of trolls, and then Forbes would post an article about it, every freaking time. So they're obviously working with this Forbes writer that would then post an article, ha ha ha, like he got owned. And it's like, this is obviously a coordinated effort. I mean, this is the most obvious thing ever. Now, the politics, I don't think you need the paid coordinated efforts because people are so passionate about it anyways. But the health stuff and the vaccine stuff specifically, the funny part is we never posted about vaccines. My team, we did feel-good videos, but what they would say is, oh, their whole strategy is to post like 20 feel-good story videos and then insert something about vaccines. And it's like, that was never my strategy, you know. I was just posting what I thought would go viral, frankly. And sometimes my client would post something about controversial topics because my whole purpose is to make somebody go viral, but then also to not get them banned. So I'm the last person to want to get my client banned, so I'm not going to do anything to get them banned. So that wasn't my team doing that. It wasn't some strategy. It was just like, that's just how it played out. And so that's, I think it's actually big pharma money that and you've seen that with vaccines. Have you seen these like copy paste tweets about the COVID vaccine where people keep posting the same thing over and over?
Oh, you'll have a bot that just generates the same tweet across like 1,000 accounts.
Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. So it's a very centralized effort, and then there's these stragglers. That's how they seem to work from what I saw. And you know, it is, I mean, I don't know. So there's really no good answer, but yeah, I did post that because it's absolutely true. I mean, the health stuff just brings the crazies. The politics stuff brings a lot of like natural passion. But when you can just say like, you're killing people, like in the health stuff, it feels very dangerous actually, especially if you're like my client. He doesn't really do anything publicly anymore. He does a lot of like, he's on Telegram, he's, you know, like, he's not my client anymore either, by the way, but like, you know, it's like, it's, you know, it's crazy. It's like void of any nuance. It's like our way or the high. It is a religion. I mean, the mainstream medicine stuff is, I'm willing to talk about that, I guess. Like, it's just so obvious that a lot of these people are atheists. And they've replaced atheism with this, like, science medical thing, which...
They have the ethnography of religion without the spirituality.
I mean...
The structure.
You're buying, like, Fauci ornaments and stuff, and, like, all this stuff, and it's like, okay. Like, I don't know. It's weird. I mean... I love modern medicine. I think there's a lot of great things about it. I actually have a family of doctors. Like I'm the idiot that didn't become a doctor. You know, like I'm one of them. You know, like I'm the dark force. But you know, like it's a weird thing when it's all centralized like that, and there's so many billions of dollars involved. That I don't think it's all out of like wanting to save lives. You know, I think a lot of it's money. And then, yeah.
I wanted to ask about what sort of influence strategies you see them using on those topics, because I'm familiar with that marketing tactic where you make a bunch of comments on the internet from your troll accounts. I mean, I saw this done recently with memes for one of the upcoming Fast and the Furious movies. So they said, the internet's going crazy for this Vin Diesel meme, which is obviously forced, and we paid to be put on these meme pages. And then they write a BuzzFeed article about how the internet loves this meme, which just so happens to tie in with this major motion picture that's coming out very soon.
It's the same thing. It's exactly what I was going to say. So they come out with these memes, right? And then a mainstream publication will pick it up, and then maybe like mainstream news people will pick it up, and that becomes like a public sentiment or like the mainstream normie view of it, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like they completely dictate how everybody thinks about everything on the public space. It's
Because most people aren't involved in that subculture. So if I read an article that there was this people who were being mean in the comments over there.
They frame things. I can look at like political things, sort of awakening things that were happening a few years ago that have been totally cast aside now from mainstream. Nobody talks about it because it does no good to talk about a lot of these topics. But like, it's crazy how, you know, these institutions, you know, they put out these memes that are very artificial. They don't get natural attraction very well at all. But then it gets picked up by the BuzzFeeds, by the Forbes, by the MSNBC, by the NBC, by the CNN, by local newspapers. It really has a huge impact, I think, especially on Generation X and Boomers, especially Boomers, who have like all the power still somehow. We're still electing them president. I don't know why. You know, now I think Trump might come in and win. We still have a Boomer president. It's like, can we ever move on from the Boomers? Like, is this possible? I don't know how this is a thing, but, you know, they still have so much power, but you know, the numbers and the money that they have, and they just get pushed around by these narratives. And now you also have like people coming through these school systems. It's like they're little machines for the system, that like these robots. Really, like, how do you change their minds when it like it's so it's unwinnable. It's unwinnable.
On the subject,
you have to create your own communities. It's your only choice. They have to let us be sovereign and create our own communities and our own monetary systems away from theirs. And they have to let us tell them to fuck off and not point guns at our heads. And that is the only way, because we're not going to change people's minds. I actually have given up on that. That's why I think free speech is pointless.
That's interesting, because
go ahead and talk. You know, see how it works out for you. I would rather do the free money thing and make money and worry about building your own community. The idea of changing people's minds through free speech is stupid. It's stupid. It's dumb. It's like there's a place and time for it, but most of the time, it's not the right time. It's better to keep your mouth shut and network with the people you want to work with and build your own community. And hopefully, when you build a good enough community that can survive on its own, they don't come in with tanks and murder you all. That's pretty much it.
It's a dark view.
Yeah, well, it's not dark. It's not dark because who wants to connect with everybody? It's gross. These people are so dumb. Mainstream, who wants to be part of that? I don't. It's over. Let's move on. We had 50 states for a reason. And the founders knew this. I mean, this is so obvious. You know, we have cities and towns and townships and all these subgroups that we can form. That's the point. That's like decentralization. That is the whole point. Who wants to be ruled over by the dollar or by these like crazy mainstream narratives? That's where crypto is missing it. Is they want to fit in with the normie mainstream narratives, but then they're trying to be revolutionary and just decentralize with the dollar. I know you have to start somewhere, but it's all going to culminate in kind of one big thing. Dude, you just have to create enough subgroups that they kind of lose enough power that they'll just let us be, as long as we're not doing something that's a genuine physical threat to them. But like, this is the balance I think that we're all finding right now. You should be terrified if you are a peaceful community that's kind of found your own way with your own economic system. Then you should be absolutely terrified.
Why? You think that they're going to try to remove that in some way?
Yeah, of course. They're going to do everything they can to maintain their power. I mean, but America, I don't know. There's a chance for it, I guess. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about crypto, That's the beautiful thing, and they're going to try things with regulation. Crypto does give that opportunity. It's like to have your own, money system, essentially.
With crypto, I wonder if people are not broadcasting just how revolutionary it is, because they're trying to avoid the regulatory tanks rolling in. They don't want the government to pass a law that says, actually in the infrastructure bill that may or may not pass now, there's supposedly something which affects crypto mining.
Yeah, they sneak all sorts of things into these bills. These bills, that's where they ruin the country, is by inserting things that nobody voted on or even wants to happen. So now they're doing this with crypto, is they're putting in possible regulations into an infrastructure bill to raise billions. They said 20-some billion dollars is what they're claiming. And it's been rewritten. The original bill was absolutely horrible, what they wrote about the crypto stuff. And now it's improved. But it's horrible. I mean, that's how they destroy the country. You go through past bills, and it's not like what the bill's about didn't destroy the country. It's the crap that they threw in there because they could get away with it. So no, it's not good.
Taking it full circle again, it sounds like the platform that you've built is a way for people to peacefully exit the system and support the communities and creators that they really want to support.
It's just a better way to donate.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be a revolutionary. We've created a platform that's a better way to donate. My little tangent earlier is just kind of my real views on things, that they will do anything to not allow us to have certain power because, the system thrives on us participating in it. Which is how it is. If we're not participating in it, then they lose power. But all that aside, that's not what our platform is about. We're about a better way to donate. It's never existed before. It's super cool. We're not trying to be revolutionaries over here. We just want to create new systems that fit in with the decentralized cryptocurrency industry that's booming, and we want to bring as many new people into it because it's just, to me, it makes more sense than banking. I mean, banking makes no sense at this point. They've printed too many dollars. Like, the dollar has value, but only because of the tanks. And it's just a technology. That's it. It's just a technology. Like everything else that's going on in crypto. It's just technology. You can read into it whatever you want. It's funny. I've seen with like sports and the Olympics. Everybody makes up all these narratives that go with it. Oh, so and so lost, and now Americans are cheering. Can you believe? It's like you're just making this up. Like
Right.
People that are cheering, I get. Some people are cheering that an American lost. I get it, but they're just making things up too. Everyone has this narrative, this political narrative in their mind. But it was just a game where somebody lost. That's actually what it was. And everybody just makes up all these, it's like a soap opera. So I think with crypto, there's a lot of soap opera narratives too that form. But it's just technology. It allows us to do things that have never been done before. It's super cool. Decentralized way to donate and earn yield, and you actually don't lose cash. That's pretty cool. So let's try it out, all right? That's it. Let's try it out. So definitely.
Well,
definitely not.
I'm rooting for you.
Appreciate it.
You say it's not you're not a revolutionary, but some would say that building the new system is the most revolutionary and useful activity people can do.
Yeah, we're building on top of new systems that other people created. But yeah, I mean, participating in crypto development right now and the DeFi platforms and NFTs it just seems like the right thing to do right now. It's a lot of fun. So, where it's going to lead, like as an industry in 10 years, I mean, I could be pessimistic about that, to be honest, if I wanted, but we'll see. I think there's going to be a lot of new opportunities, and it's the new internet. So anybody that's interested in getting in the platform, just get a MetaMask wallet, sign up. It will take almost the same amount of time it took you to set up a Facebook account, and it's free money potentially. So I appreciate you having me on. Check out Let's Go Finance, and yeah, that's it.
Word. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for listening to the Brendon Marotta Show. If you liked this episode, please share it with someone else who would also like it, and then go on whatever platform you listen to the show on and leave a positive review. If you want to support the show directly, go to brendonmarotta.com/show and subscribe there. Paid subscribers get special unreleased bonus material and live events that are only available to them. Once again, that is brendonmarotta.com/show. Thank you for listening, and I will talk to you all later.